All right. Let's now jump into our module of the week. Let's bring in Martin Anderson Klutz, a senior solutions engineer at Acquia and maintainer of a number of Drupal modules of his own. Martin, what do you have for us this week?
Thanks, John. This week, I thought we would talk about a module called Search API Solr Boost by User Term, which allows you to boost search results that share a taxonomy term reference with a particular visitor. So it's a module that was created in August of 2021, and then there was a stable 1.0 release almost a year later to provide Drupal 10 compatibility. So hasn't seen a ton of maintenance. Officially, actually, right now, Drupal.org says that it's used on 0 sites, although I know I have it personally installed on a couple of demo sites. It actually has no bugs out of 3 open issues as well. So as you probably guessed by now, the maintainer, the creator of the module is me, and it's actually similar to a module that we touched on a few weeks ago called Views User Term Filter. So what they have in common is really trying to share content or promote content to your site visitors that kind of aligns with how they have their profile configured. This one is potentially a bit more subtle because it's really meant to be within search results, and it's actually sort of boosting within a set of search results content that kind of aligns with users, and you can configure the degree of that boost. And so theoretically, you could have more than one boost. So you could, let's say, maybe you want to strongly promote content that is tagged with the same region that a visitor has, configured their profile to say that they're in, but maybe only do like a mild boost on content that's tagged with like their primary topic of interest, as an example. Sorry, go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, I was going to ask. I want to kind of clarify what this is because on first hearing this, you're like, well, can't you boost taxonomy terms already, right? But if you're thinking about this like movies and genres, right? If you have a taxonomy that says this is a horror movie, this is a comedy, right? And you boost that taxonomy term, that means that if somebody searches the word horror or comedy, it will return those results. But the difference between the default in this module is if I say I like horror and I search for clown, it's going to show me results that are tagged with horror before comedy, right? Is that correct?
So there's that, but then it's also that it's specific to, how a user has configured their profile. So normally without this, you would have to have like, a boost that would be sort of applied to everyone, whereas this one will vary by user based on specifically, what choices they made in their profile.
Yeah, it's basically maybe not a better example, but it's a type of personalization. It seems like an ability to personalize search results based on a user's selected terms. One question I have is, does it act on multiple terms? So, for example, if a user is it has set a location and then they've set a secondary term for maybe a specific city within, a state or something to that effect. Is it capable of saying like, okay, well, I'm going to boost this item because it meets both of those criteria further up the list?
So, if you're using sort of different taxonomies and there's matches in both, then it can basically stack those boosts to some degree. I'm not sure that it's currently at least written to sort of work with entity references where there might be sort of multiple values. So to say, if in my list of preferred, movie genres, I've got horror and comedy, to be able to sort of say, as long as there's one match, boost that, or those kinds of things. So there's definitely, the potential for it to become more sophisticated, but I think out of the box for simple use cases, at least in my experience, it works really well.
So I actually just did a talk at Johnson Wales University on personalization and data and tracking and all that sort of stuff. So this is kind of interesting that we were talking about this. And the reason I'm asking that is I'm wondering, does this require an authenticated user in order to work correctly? Like, is there a way that you could essentially tag an anonymous user to be able to to provide search results to them if you had some sort of inferred data that they provided. For example, if they went to a specific page on your website, you could tag them with like, oh, they like, they like horror movies, we'll say, going back to Nick's example.
So sometimes I like to draw a distinction between what I refer to as personalization and customization. So customization being the idea that it's an authenticated user who has provided you with explicit data, and then you use that to inform what you show them. Where personalization is more around being able to collect sort of behavioral information in terms of what a user is doing, potentially also for anonymous users, and then provide a set of customized content that goes beyond sort of the explicit data that you would have on that sort of customization side.
Right. Okay. I think that makes sense.
And so this module would be more on kind of, again, that customization idea of taking explicit data and then showing them things that align with that. Got it.
Because I see and maybe there's already a module that does something like that, but I see there being a benefit there to say like, hey, if there was a way to like, take the same approach for an anonymous user who's been, maybe been on a couple of pages or something like that.
So there definitely are sort of commercial products, but they tend to be more sort of, paid solutions for those kinds of things. Absolutely. The last thing I wanted to mention here is that this module actually depends on the user reference field cache context module to basically properly cache the results based on those different values that a user might have in the profile that are being used to boost the results. And I feel like this module, or sort of that cache context module, as well as this module, can also be good sort of learning starting points if you wanted to, create your own sort of custom cache context, or potentially write your own sort of search API, Solr, hook module to sort of do some other kind of customization. So, those are a couple of the reasons why I thought this would be a nice one to cover.
Just out of curiosity, if the query is the same for two users, like using the same term, is that cached and then reloaded for both? Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
Martin's shaking his head yes for those people listening audibly. I do like the fact here that this module includes some of the longest named modules going right now, I believe.
I was thinking the same thing.
That's good. That's why, I'm going to jump on my non-code contribution soapbox for a second and say like, hey, marketers, if you're out there, like there are module developers that need help naming things and marketing things, and like, come to the open source community called Drupal. We need everybody.
Naming things is hard for sure.
It is, absolutely. Well, Martin, as always, thank you for joining us and providing us with another very enlightening module of the week. And let's go on to our primary topic.